about last week where he has played a little bit better. What a pass by Rondo.
That might be the dagger.
Why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league?
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
What's up, NBA fans? Dom2K on the mic, and today we are doing a video just as simple as the last one. If you did not see the last video where we ranked the MVPs in order for the 2010s, make sure to go hop on there and give your list. And today we are just going to do the same thing but for finals MVPs, and this is slightly more of an interesting conversation just because finals MVPs are based on no more than 7 games. There was a time in 2013 where Danny Green could have won it if the Spurs had won the title. And so with names like that popping up, this list becomes very interesting and also a bit easier to rank. At number 10, I really don't think there should be any discussion here. It's 2015 Iguodala. This was a year where not only were people questioning why did Iguodala get it, they were actually mad that LeBron James, who was on the losing team, didn't get it. Now, I'm not one of those that questions why he got it, but I will admit out of the 2010s, yes, this is definitely the weakest one. His numbers for that series were 16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal a game. Not bad numbers at all. But as you know if you watched and paid attention, the MVP was really given to him that series for his defensive efforts against LeBron James. And for some reason, there still every now and then is a graphic that floats around on Twitter showing all the numbers that LeBron put up and saying what did Iguodala do. And that's just very simplistic because if you actually look at the numbers when Iguodala was guarding him, if you look at the amount of shots that he contested, there was a clear effect. Going into game 6 of that series, because this is the only graph I could find for some reason, LeBron was shooting just 33% when defended by Iguodala. Also when defended by Iggy, 85% of his shots were contested, leaving only 15% uncontested. The shots that were uncontested were at an average of 16.5 feet, meanwhile the ones that were contested were at 11 feet. LeBron shot 40% from the field that series and the Cavaliers lost. Do you see where I'm going with this? Iguodala made a clear difference and it made sense that he had the finals MVP. That being said, Steph Curry and the way he played, it is definitely blown out of proportion because he had the numbers to win as well. It just wasn't the Steph Curry that we had seen all season, so at 44% from the field overall, and then the spat that he got into with Dellavedova where for like 1 game or 2 Delly was like really challenging him, I guess voters were just a little bit disappointed. But with all of this being said, yes, there is not another finals MVP as weak as the one that Iguodala won. He played a role that he was asked to play, he did it to the best of his ability, and he was awarded finals MVP for his efforts. At number 9, we're looking at a finals MVP that is very similar to Iguodala's, and it is Kawhi Leonard in 2014. This was another MVP that was won with not amazing numbers, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 assists, and a block. That's just, there's nothing eye-popping about it, but he played really well. This is before Leonard was a superstar. This is before he was really like a known all-star. This is a 22-year-old Kawhi Leonard, so that's what I always found interesting about his career is that he's obviously one of the best, if not the best player in the NBA today. Most people would have him around 2nd or 3rd, but he won his first finals MVP before we even knew he was really gonna get there. And 2014 is a similar story, so it's one where they look at LeBron's numbers, and this time they actually have a field goal percentage to back it up. They look at LeBron and say great numbers, great field goal percentage. It was the rest of the Heat that didn't show up, and what did Kawhi Leonard even do? Well, Coach Nick has a great video on what Kawhi Leonard did. He has a great video about how Kawhi kind of kept LeBron at bay at least until the game was really out of reach, and that's when most of LeBron's numbers came. So with Kawhi Leonard's defensive efforts, and then his numbers, which again, he had the 2nd highest points per game average on the team that year, or in that NBA Finals, he was awarded Finals MVP. And the 2014 Spurs were just one of those teams that, like I said, in 2013, Danny Green could have had it, so in 2014 when Kawhi Leonard did get it, you always knew that it was a total team effort thing with him, so if a role player came out of nowhere and won it, then it really wasn't as surprising as it was to see Iguodala come over Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and all those other guys and win it. So Kawhi and Iguodala's finals MVPs are very similar. However, I give Kawhi the edge here because his numbers are a bit better. He shot 61%, and he was less of a role player than Iguodala. So Iguodala didn't even start every game of that finals. He only started 3 actually, whereas Kawhi Leonard was a solidified starter. He just was not a star yet. So it was a little bit more than him just playing one role really well and winning it. This was Kawhi on the come up, and he won an MVP similar to Iguodala's but better. Also, there is the fact that, remember, this is the 2014 Heat, so there were still other guys, Ray Allen, Chris Bosh, a declining Dwayne Wade, but my point is that Iguodala was able to really focus in and hone in on LeBron James in 2015 2014 because there was no Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love. So when all your defensive efforts can go into one guy who really doesn't have a lot of other offensive weapons, consistent offensive weapons, it's definitely a bit easier to win a Finals MVP that way, as opposed to where Kawhi Leonard was still dealing with a 2014 Heat team that was still good coming into that series. Nobody thought the Heat were washed up. It's when they got there and got gentlemen swept, we were like, damn, it might be over. At number 8, we're gonna go Kawhi Leonard from 2019, and there are multiple reasons here. First off, his overall stats were impressive. 29 points a game, 10 rebounds, that's if you're rounding. It was not an official double-double, but if you round, it was a double-double. 4 assists, 2 steals, a block, but he only shot 43% from the field. Now, it's not just the numbers and the field goal percentage there. If you watched the actual series, you saw the story. For a team that was as beat up as Golden State was, it seemed like there were times where Kawhi Leonard wasn't 100% just taking over and dominating the way that you thought he should have. There were stretches where he was just off and the game was closer than it should have been. There were even times in the series where you thought, maybe the Finals MVP might go to one of his teammates, but in the end you knew that they wouldn't because by the end of the games his numbers looked great. And again, against a very beat up Warriors team, the series really should have been over in 5, whereas it was really like one shot away from going 7. The end result numbers look great, but I think given the circumstance, every other Finals MVP on this list was definitely better. At number 7, I am going to go 2018 KD. And the thing about this is, if you were just doing this from a numbers standpoint, like purely numbers, it would probably be closer to the top. 29 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, 53% from the field and 40% from 3. So he had a 50-40-90 series. That is incredible. However, I am taking into account like the circumstance, the situations, the teams that they were playing, and the fact that he was a part of the Golden State Warriors playing one of the worst teams that LeBron James ever had. I look at this Finals MVP more like a he did what he was supposed to type thing. When you're playing on a floor with unlimited space against a team that really shouldn't even be in the Finals, it's like, cool, amazing series. This is one of the probably, if you put this up against other Finals performances just by the numbers, it's probably one of the best ever. But it was also a thing where coming into that series, you already knew the Warriors were gonna win it. That's one thing. The second thing you knew was this Finals MVP is probably going to go to Kevin Durant. It's more than likely going to be between KD and Steph Curry, but it's probably going to Kevin Durant. You knew that before the series. Just from watching them play throughout the playoffs, throughout the season, knowing how those teams matched up, this was not a difficult call. He played perfect basketball, had a perfect series, but it was on a perfect team. And when we're doing a ranking list and going against other guys' performances, it's difficult to award many points for a player doing exactly what he was supposed to do in a very low stress and easy situation. And that's exactly how I am giving his 2017 performance the 7th place. Again, one of the best Finals performances ever, and this one is a lot better than 2018. 35 points a game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 56% from the field, 47 from 3. Unbelievable basketball. I give him all the points in the world as a basketball player, just as a straight basketball player, all the points in the world for a performance like this against a 2017 Cavaliers team that had only lost 1 game in the Eastern Conference. Given that is a bit skewed in the context of this situation because the East was pitiful. Let's just go ahead and call it what it was. There was also Kyrie Irving that year, Kevin Love. 2017 Cavs actually might have been the best Cavaliers team in LeBron's return. That being said, I am still taking into account the situation of the Golden State Warriors being an all-star team, them also only having lost 1 game, which was actually to the Cavaliers. As a matter of fact, here's how I can sum up both 2018 and 2017. I think there's a lot of players, there's a lot of superstars in history that you could take them and put them on an amazing team and see them have some of the best Finals performances ever. I truly believe that. If you had have taken Tracy McGrady and put him on the 01 Lakers, well, I would have expected him to have some of the best numbers in Finals history, because how are they going to pay attention to Shaq, Kobe, and T-Mac? If you had have taken Larry Bird and put him on the Showtime Lakers and had him average 40 points on 50-40-90, well, yeah, I expect that. He has Magic, Kareem, and Worthy by his side. How is anyone going to even have time to pay attention to Bird? So when you take KD and you have him next to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green for that matter, well, how am I supposed to feel? That core won 73 games right before he got there. This was the very next year. We knew it was going to turn out that way. That's why everybody was so pissed. So I probably did not need to explain that in great detail, but just in case somebody looks at the numbers and say, how are you going to put KD all the way back here? That is my full explanation, and if you rank it a different way, then hey, we just disagree. At number 5, 2010, Kobe Bryant. This is one of the most controversial Finals MVPs of the decade because people, well, a certain group of people think that Pau Gasol should have won it. And what do they look at? They look at Gasol averaging 19 points and 12 rebounds, nearly 3 blocks a game if you round up, shooting 47% from the field, and also not nearly shooting his team out of a game 7. And then, what do they look at on Kobe's side? They look at 40% from the field. That's it. So then, what they don't look at is 29 points and 8 rebounds. They don't look at doing that on a broken finger. They don't look at doing that on a bum knee. They don't look at him setting the tone in a crucial game 1. They don't look at him leading the Lakers to victory in a crucial game 3, which was the only game they got in Boston. And by the way, if they don't win a game in Boston, they lose the series. That's a game where he had 29 points, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 4 assists, and 7 rebounds, and Gasol had 13 and 10. Not terrible numbers, but there was a very clear and distinct 1A and 1B that game. Kobe was the catalyst and the best player for most games that series, and not only was he injured while doing it, this was against a very tough Boston team. Very tough, very deep, still defensive minded, probably not as good on defense as they were in 08, but they were able to cut it on when they needed to get to the finals. And in the infamous Game 7 where Kobe Bryant did not shoot well, as a side note, I'm gonna add that nobody actually shot well in that game, he made up for it with 15 rebounds. Anybody who watched this series knows that Kobe Bryant did whatever needed to be done at the time that it needed to be done. There were no wins where he was just a non-factor. This was on the second year of a back-to-back, so they had played into June the previous year. And when you take everything into account, I think this finals MVP is more impressive than every one that we've covered so far. It's not statistically the best one, that's a different list. At number 4, give me 2012 LeBron James, and this was LeBron on his redemption tour. I actually did an entire breakdown to show you the difference between him in 2011 and 2012, and against the Thunder he was able to tally 29 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and that was on 47% shooting, so nearly a triple-double. He was flirting with it. And we're not going to discredit this one by calling them a young Thunder team, because that's always the way to go at the 2012 title, is to say the Thunder were inexperienced and this, that, and the other thing. Well, yeah, look, they did get better. But Westbrook and KD were still like that back then. KD was still leading the league in scoring back then. We did understand the significance of a Kevin Durant and LeBron James finals at that point. It was not like Kevin Durant was at the point of, you know, Kawhi Leonard in his first finals. No, those are apples and oranges. Kevin Durant was a legitimate superstar. I always say when this finals comes up that it was closer than you remember. The only games that were just flat out not close, as a matter of fact, the only one that wasn't close was Game 5. Game 1 ended by double digits, but it was close all the way pretty much till the fourth quarter. Every other game was close, and LeBron James came up big in some clutch situations. It was statistically an amazing finals, it was against a really good team, and it also had that added flair to it of a comeback story, because his 2011 performance and 2012, they are really night and day. So at number 3, I rank his 2013 performance, and here's the thing. His 2012 performance was statistically better, and it was pretty much a lot better. In 2013, he averaged 25 and 11, 7 assists, 2 steals, so again flirting with a triple-double, but this time he only shot 44% from the field. But I have to rank this one over the Thunder series because the San Antonio Spurs of 2013, that is an all-time team even though they did not win. Like, the difference between them being talked about with the 2014 Spurs and not being talked about as we do now is just the fact that they kind of choked in Game 6. If they don't do that, we look at them and say, man, they came and got this Heat team where Dwayne Wade had not diminished yet, not fully diminished, the one that had a 27-game win streak, that got LeBron in his best MVP season, no, his best season ever. We went through that in his MVP year, and they went and almost took them out in Game 6 on their home floor. So that's the only reason we don't discuss the 2013 Spurs up there. It's just the difference between winning and losing. So there's the strength of the opponent that I'm taking into account there, but I'm also looking at the big moments. The Miami Heat lost Game 6, okay? It was over. It was lost. They were down double digits. San Antonio had all the momentum, and LeBron James has that monster performance in Game 6 down the stretch to bring them back. They probably go away silently without that. Then in Game 7, he finishes it off. He tallies an efficient 37 points and 12 rebounds like it's nothing, and hits the dagger. So as you saw in my breakdown, against the Thunder, that was a good team, but he pretty much got whatever he wanted against that defense. The Spurs made life much tougher, much better team, and he was on the ropes as well. And when you watch a guy perform his best on the ropes like he was at the end of Game 6 and like they were on Game 7, that's where I can say that weighs a bit more than just having perfect statistics like he had in 2012. So that's why I actually have Dirk Nowitzki at number 2 instead of having LeBron at number 2. Dirk only shot 42% in 2011, but you have to understand that that Mavericks team came into that series on the ropes. Here's this Mavericks team with one superstar in Dirk Nowitzki, and they're a good overall team, don't get me wrong. But you have to remember, in 2011, we're looking at duos, we're looking at Kobe and Gasol, we're looking at big threes like the Celtics and the Heat. We're not just looking at Dirk Nowitzki and a bunch of other good role players. That is not what caught anyone's eye. And then in game 2, they were really on the ropes. That famous comeback, you already know all about it. When they're down double digits and the Heat are celebrating, the series looks exactly how everybody envisioned it. They lose that game, they probably lose the series. But Dirk really led a team against 3 superstars. It wasn't just like with Kobe where everyone is a little bit older now. The Celtics were a really good and deep team, but the big 3 were a bit older. Talking about prime Chris Bosh, the best Dwayne Wade as as a part of the Miami Heat trio, that's the best Dwayne Wade there was. And then LeBron James. Dirk Nowitzki put up 26 points, 10 rebounds, and he just had moment after moment. The game 2 layup to seal the deal, a rainbow 3 in game 5, I believe. The game 6 dagger where you could already tell the game was pretty much out of reach, but it was more like an exclamation mark where he hit that shot on Chris Bosh. In game 4, Dirk was actually sick. That was a game where they were on the verge of going down 3-1, and Nowitzki ends up with 21 points and 11 rebounds. And you look right on the other side, like that's a game where LeBron James had 8 points. So in a moment where it was all about the superstars of teams showing up, Dirk was the victor. And I'm just never going to let anybody forget. You know, people try to rewrite history. There's new narratives going around. Every year I see the 2011 Mavericks get better in history, and soon enough it'll be to the point where, oh well, the Heat actually weren't expected to win that finals. Never let anybody tell you that. Never let anybody diminish that title. You know, it's one thing to say that Dirk won it by himself. That's obviously false. He didn't. He had a good team, but he did not have a big 3. He did not have superstars by his side. And to come up and be the catalyst to perform against a team that had claimed they were going to win like multiple championships and that it was going to be easy, you kind of had to live through it to understand why that title was so important. But more than importance, it is one of the best finals MVPs of the decade, and the only reason it's not the best is because LeBron James went absolutely berserk in a series against a 73-9 team. Oh yeah, with the 3-1 comeback. Only reason. Yeah, let's just go ahead and call a spade a spade. If your 2010's NBA Finals MVP list does not have LeBron James at number 1, it's wrong. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, nearly 3 steals, and 2 blocks a game, shooting at 49% and 37% at 3. This is going against what everybody would have started calling the best team of all time had they have won that series. Let's also call a spade on that. If the 73-9 Warriors win the 2016 championship, they have now replaced the Bulls as the greatest team of all time. That would, especially with the way people forget history and all that, there is no way they would not be sitting on that mantle. That's the only thing they were missing was one game. Now, were there injuries and were there suspensions? Yes. But were the Cavaliers fully against the ropes? Oh, absolutely. They were down 3-1, and Golden State was the team with 2 home games left. So they had to go and win game 5, where everybody kind of expected a gentleman's sweep at that point. Then they had to go and win a game 7. So regardless of the injuries and the suspensions and all that, which are a factor, they were definitely a factor. I maintain that the Warriors win that series in 5 if none of that happens. Still, 100% on the ropes. Game 7 was one of the most intense and nerve-wracking affairs I've ever sat through. And in game 7, what does LeBron do? Triple-double. Triple-double and the block, which is a moment that is never going to die in sports history. Just in case you've forgotten, that block came at a time where it had been a couple of minutes since the team scored. So you could just hear the tension. And the general idea was the next team to score is probably going to go on to win because there was just a lid on the basket. Nobody could get anything. So the Warriors finally have a fast break layup and LeBron comes out of nowhere. I will be telling this story to my kids, my grandkids. All I saw was Iguodala. All I saw was a layup. And then I just saw all black. Referring to the Cavaliers uniforms, obviously. All black and LeBron James all over the ball. Never seen anything like it. Don't know if I'm going to see anything like it again. And I have not even mentioned the Game 5 performance yet. Game 5, they were on the ropes. 41 points, 3 blocks, 3 steals, 7 assists, 16 rebounds, 50% from the 3-point line, 53% from the field. I don't give a shit if Bogut was hurt and Green was out. Do you know how demoralizing it probably feels to be down 3-1 when you know that 2 of the next 3 games, if they were to even happen, would be away games against this team that was still loaded? Even with Curry slipping and his knee not being as great, all that, they were still on the ropes. and they could have chosen to die anytime. That was a mountain that they were looking at, and they climbed it, led by LeBron James. Hey man, there's nothing left to say. Would the Warriors have won that series if you didn't have all the extra stuff going on? Yes. Was that one of the most incredible comebacks in sports history? Yes. Did LeBron James lead both teams in basically every statistical category throughout said series? Yes. Alright then, end the video. Let me know what your list is in the comment section, and if you agree or disagree with any of the placements in mine, and let me know what other 2010s lists you would like to see. Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications when the next list drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.